welcome to episode 120 of In the Rabbit Holes Urban Survival Podcast. It's an action-packed show today as we discuss riots, guns, and silencers, and argue differing opinions of survival gear, and Jason goes bunny hunting in the suburbs. We're your hosts, Aaron
and Jason.
And you are in the rabbit hole, safe and sound. Jason, you're being very weird with your microphone.
Thank you.
I said pull it closer to you, not like get up on it and be all like, ooh,
sexy
microphone.
Oh.
That's disturbing. I'm so glad there is a desk between us and a little.
Yeah, it's just big, long.
Okay, all right. All right. Yes, big black thing in front of your face. I know. That's okay. So anyway, let's talk about some survival stuff.
Now,
man. I know everybody's probably expecting us to talk about Ferguson.
Yeah.
And we're not going to talk about it in the way that I think a lot of people think we might talk about it. You can probably guess
exactly.
my feelings. I mean, we're big on personal responsibility and ownership of one's shit, we'll say. And so we'll leave it at that. But there's definitely some urban survival lessons.
Yeah, case in point, this is a perfect example of something popping up that would actually rolls right back into being prepared for any kind of situation.
Exactly. And I think this also rolls back into something you, me, and James even talked about. Usually when these things happen, if you have a brain and you're paying attention, you see them coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
It's not like any of us, particularly in the prep world, that do pay attention to stuff, are shocked in any way, shape, or form by what has gone on in Ferguson immediately after the Ferguson.
Right, exactly.
It was kind of like the only question, at least for me, the only question I had was, when are they going to release the verdict? Because I wasn't personally sure what was going to happen on a national level.
Right.
My personal feeling is it didn't matter what the verdict was, the outcome was going to be the same.
Exactly.
And not getting into that side of it, but it was coming from a mile away. Oh,
there was a 2 month, almost 2-3 month lead up time.
It was almost, and this is going to sound terrible, but it was almost like the anticipation was driving me nuts. I was like, come on, can we just get this over with so we can all get back to our lives?
Right.
They're going to set stuff on fire. Everybody's going to be upset. Both sides or both opinions on the topic are going to be upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
That I was just like, let's just get this over with.
It was the anticipation of seeing how bad it was going to get.
Well, and it was the anticipation and going back to, you see it coming from a mile away of what is this going to look like on a national level?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're in Houston. What's it going to look like here? Jonathan's in Austin. What's it going to look like in Austin?
Right.
Wherever you're listening to us from today, where was it going to look like in your area? And there were a lot of different ways that it could have gone. It went the way that a lot of people kind of expected it to go. And it was like, all right, not from a verdict standpoint necessarily, but from the reaction. So people started tearing stuff up and burning stuff down. And unfortunately, and I think this is the case you see anytime when you see riots in an urban environment, especially if it's over anger over something. What they tear up has absolutely positively nothing to do with what they say they're mad about. And it was like, okay, if they had gone and torn down the courthouse, I still would have been like, totally no. If they'd gone and torn down the police station, no, not an agreement here. After hearing what the evidence and everything that wasn't, it's like, no, that's no. They didn't do that. They went and they tore up small business owners.
Which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but that's a whole nother rant.
If it makes sense if you're looking at the whole thing from a completely different perspective other than whatever. So, but the point being, as far as you see this coming from a while away, and this is one of the things you and I were talking about beforehand, like, what do you do? And my whole point about it is, if I was one of those business owners, I really would be torn between like the Korean
the LA riots.
Liquor in the LA riots, like they got on top and nobody messed with their stuff. But I'm torn between putting yourself in that situation where all it takes is one person throwing a Molotov cocktail into that building, and well, you're stuck up on the roof, and that's great. You got yourself a rifle and your bonsai bandana going, but everything underneath you is now on fire.
Right.
And my thing becomes like, yes, as a small business owner, I say, okay, I would want to be there too, but like I was telling my brother, he was like, "What do we do? You lock the doors and don't be there. Go home. Mm-hmm. There's no need for this. There's nothing there that can't be replaced."
Right.
Whereas your life, or potentially getting into the middle and causing things to be worse than they already are, whether you're in the right or the wrong is irrelevant. It's like, it's just unnecessary.
Just like the officer. I mean, he's going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life.
Well, he's going to have to deal with several things for the rest of his life. He's going to have to deal with the fact that he took another human being's life, no matter the circumstance.
Right.
He had to take another, and that's going to weigh on that man for the rest of his life. Aside from the other issues he's going to deal with. I mean, now he's going to have to deal with, I'm sure there's going to be a civil suit, so he's going to have to deal with that. He's still got the federal investigation going on. Who knows what direction that's going to go in?
Oh, God.
I mean, so from what do you do if you're in an urban environment and that situation happens? And my thing is, if you can help it, don't be there.
Avoid it. If you see
we're talking about
that big of a giant thing coming at you, it's very easy to avoid. Get out of the way. Get out of harm's way. That's the simplest survival, topic or lesson. That's a better word for it. That's the best survival or lesson to learn is get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
If you see it coming, move.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid the situation.
Any good, I think one of my favorite stories, and I've heard this from every martial arts instructor I've ever known, which is, they all tell the story of somebody at some point always asks them, "What's the best way to block a punch?" And they all say, "Don't be there."
Right.
Don't be in the punch's way. And again, going back, I totally understand the desire to do like what the guys did during the Korean grocers did in I don't know what it was, if it was a grocery store or liquor store, but irrelevant. But they were on top of their business with AKs, I think.
Yeah, some Mini 14s, whatever they had.
Yeah, it may have been Mini 14s or something. I applaud them for defending their property, but at the same time, I would be really torn. I don't know that I would make that decision. I think I personally would make the decision of, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I would have been like, "No, let's go and defend our thing." And now I'm like, no, burn it, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what insurance is for. No, insurance isn't going to cover everything. And yes, like if somebody burned down my family's building or whatever, yeah, it would affect. I mean, insurance really doesn't cover that much.
No.
But
what's more important, your life? Or something that you can turn around and rebuild up again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you build it once.
Yeah, you can do it again. Yeah, I've got a perfect example of that. It's called my life.
I think we've all been through that. You excel at that, but you've done it a bunch of times. Like you've become an old pro at it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But
that's the case in point. You can start
rebuild.
again.
Yeah, you can always start again. You can't get your life back.
Exactly.
That doesn't come back. And whether it's yours or whether it's a family member or whoever's life. So I think that is the biggest lesson, and that's one of the things. I mean, that James has said on the show, and I really agree with it. It's like if you can avoid trouble, do it. It's not worth it. Like he's talked about giving up whole convoys and stuff, if I remember correctly, because it wasn't worth it. It's like let them have it. Our lives are worth more. Or take the longer route. Yeah, the shorter route, and we're in the right. But you know what? I'd rather not get in a firefight with these guys. It's not worth it.
Well, that's the whole. And I hate tying back to an old show, but that's part of the reason, or the whole premise of us taking the whole mobile scout classes is the fact of if by chance we get into a situation like that, we need to move out of it and get out of that situation as quickly and as safely as possible without having to resort to guns. Because if you have to resort to fighting your way out of something, everyone's going to get hurt.
Yeah. Well,
it's not a win-win situation.
Except me, because apparently I thought you were a murderous bastard too. I was under the wrong impression. Apparently I am the only murderous bastard. Hey, I felt threatened. But yeah, no, it's not worth it. And that was a different situation. We were in a training scenario,
right? And
part of it was having fun, and I was expecting what was happening to happen. And I may have shot him a little soon, but at the end of the day, the answer is don't be there. The other thing is just being aware of, and I think some of this stuff, it was very curious. I mean, not even talking about the National Guard stuff, because it was like, and that's an example of, government's not always going to be there.
Oh, God.
I don't even know.
People.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of theories about it. I don't even know what they are because I'm not even going to bother reading them. I just know everybody's worked up. I'm getting more and more to the point where I want to know that stuff is happening. I don't actually care. I care less and less every day what the details are. I want a general sense of what's going on. Unless, like with Ebola, it was interesting.
Right.
Because I thought the disease itself was interesting. The way things
It's an interesting topic.
It is an interesting topic. I mean, this is an interesting topic, but as far as like the National Guard thing, my point being like, I was just like, all right, everybody's worked up. I was like, to me, it was just like, I don't really care that why the National Guard wasn't there. My only thing was they weren't there, or at least not there in the numbers that people
should. They were there the second day. Why weren't they there? They there? Is that right? Why weren't they there for the first day when they were already in the vicinity
and they'd been called in? The flare had gone up long before that.
Why didn't they?
I don't know, but I mean, I think
isn't that the point of our government is to protect personal property?
Well, rights? I think that's the way it started. I don't think that's what it's meant, and I don't know. Since I don't know about day 3 of our government, probably, but it is the nature of all governments to be full of shit. But I'm becoming a cynical old man, but.
Oh, believe me. Yeah. I'm right there with you, sir.
But I'm not even really just that revved up about it anymore. I'm just kind of whatever. But my point being like, no, they're not there when those business owners thought they should be there. It was like, no, the government just kind of got out of the way.
It's a kind of a good example of government's not going to be there when you need them.
Yeah, at least they may, but you can't count on it. And I think the other side of that is I was surprised by how little of preparation. Now, granted, I'm looking at this through the lens of a camera, so who knows? But I was looking at the plywood and stuff that these people put up, and from what I was able to tell, I was like, "What? What? They just went out and bought like the cheapest plywood they could." It looked to me like it was 1/4-inch plywood, which, if you're going to board up windows, don't use 1/4-inch plywood. Use 1/2-inch plywood. 1/4-inch plywood, yeah. If it's a hurricane or something, yeah, that 2x4 is still going to probably go right through the 1/2-inch. But a human being is not without an axe. And even with an axe, I've seen people hacking at 1/2-inch plywood put over windows. Even with an axe, they're going to be at it for a while. Yeah. Like I've seen people go after it with a fireman's axe.
Yeah.
I've seen big dudes really wear themselves out trying to get in.
Oh yeah.
So to me, their preparations looked very flimsy. It was like 1/4-inch plywood. It didn't seem like it was attached that hard. I personally have some questions about whether or not those business owners were told, you know what, don't try too hard and don't be there and you'll get taken care of.
Yeah.
Your stuff will get cleaned up. If that conversation was had with the business owners, we'll probably never hear about it, and that's fine. I mean, it doesn't really have bearing on any of it. That would be one thing I would do. I would secure it better. Now, at the end of the day, like that, what was it? The beauty salon got lit on fire. And even with plywood over your windows, I don't, going back to why I would not be there would be, yeah, you could be on the roof with your super fancy high-tech rifle or your Ruger 1022 if that's all you got. But, at the end of the day, one Molotov cocktail at the lower level of the building you're on, and now you're a hot dog roasted on a spit, basically.
Pretty much. Or that you're jumping right into the middle of it.
Yeah.
And your odds are pretty slim if you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the big lesson was their preparations were pretty flimsy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, at that point, you're dealing with a freight train, and the only thing you can do is get out of the way.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, that's the lesson to be learned here. Avoid it. Avoidance is the best way to be able to get out of that kind of a situation.
Yeah, and it's extremely rare that you're going to find a situation that is a surprise. If you're paying attention.
Right.
The Rodney King stuff, that was kind of a surprise, but it wasn't really that big of a surprise. It was, I think, the magnitude that turned into caught people off guard.
Right.
But then again, going back to the Korean guys on top of they saw that coming well enough that they had their rifles and they had boarded up and they were on the roof. So they had enough time to do, in my estimation, it worked out well for them in that instance, but in my estimation, actually a poor choice. Going back though, it worked out well for them in that situation. And I think that's one of the things we're going to come to in a little while is you got to think for yourself and you got to be able to read the situation you're in and read your own preps and everything else. And that kind of goes into a cliffhanger we kind of left off with James and a few forum members and stuff in the last season. But yeah, I mean, that is the big takeaway is read the situation. And if you can help it, don't be there.
Right.
Because there is no solid reason outside of emotions and ego to put yourself into this situation.
Agreed. And believe me, I'm one of those guys that would, my first reaction is to jump on the roof.
Yeah. And you a little bit faster than me, but I would be right there. Like, let's go.
Yeah. You've got to be able to think with a cool head and think logically.
In that exact instance, just going back to the sitting on a rooftop with a rifle, because you've got riots in your town, regardless of who's rioting. I don't want anybody to get caught up in that. But to think, are you actually prepared to start ending other people's lives? The guys in LA, again, the situation worked out for them. I don't think they had to fire a shot.
Even if they did, I think they only fired it up in the air to let everyone else know that they're there.
Yeah, we're here. These aren't water guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it depends on the determination of the crowd and what's going on.
Human nature, I would think most people, when they realize they have guns and they're willing to shoot us, let's go pick an easier target.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like most robbers.
And I mean, I really do think that is probably the outcome of that situation. Yeah. There's going to be a very random thing, but most likely that in that exact scenario, that is the outcome, is that people are like, I ain't going nowhere.
Right.
But then again, you have to decide, are you really ready to, because, if somebody tests you on that, you do have to be ready to pull the trigger. Otherwise, the second they realize you're not serious about it,
they take the gun away from you and you're,
yeah. I mean, you've made a bad situation even worse.
Yeah.
So
that's a good segue into just being prepared for whatever situation comes up.
Yeah.
Like being in my big concern is something like that happens and you're not paying that close attention to what's going on and you're in your vehicle and you literally drive into the middle of it.
Well, now here's a great example because I was not paying that close of attention because I think our local news sucks. So I don't really watch our local news. They all have very pretty traffic and weather girls.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't get anything out of the local news, so I don't usually watch you. Right. And this goes back to network, having a community. That I pay more attention to national and international news.
Right.
And I start getting, I'm out doing whatever. I don't even know what I was doing. And I start getting texts from you. And this was actually day 2. It wasn't day 1.
Right.
I was looking at it thinking, okay, what's happened on a national level has happened and it's done. And the first night I was watching like local news, watching their website, like, is there stuff going on? Is there anything? And nothing was going on here that first night, but the second night it was. So I start getting texts from you.
Yeah, because I saw they were heading in your direction.
Yeah, and they were.
And I was like, "Where you at?"
No, unfortunately, this stuff here in Houston, as far as I know, there was nothing. Like it was just, and it was fine. It was in my estimation, it was a reasonable protest.
Yes.
I think shutting down freeways has nothing to do with the protest, but whatever.
The local cops handled it very well. The situation in Dallas, they actually got onto the freeway, but the cops showed up with such in force.
Yeah,
it was almost a one-on-one situation.
Yeah.
One cop per protester.
Oh wow!
And they pushed them off of the freeway, and we're like, "Look, we don't want to infringe on any of your rights, but you're not going to infringe on anyone else's."
Yeah,
this just get back over there, not blocking and impeding traffic.
Yeah.
And behave yourselves and we're good. No one goes to jail. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
There was only like 5 arrests.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But they were there enforced to be like, if you really want to push this issue, we're going to arrest all of you.
Yeah. And HPD was the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to give credit to our local Texas cops.
They did. And you know what? I will actually give credit to our local, at least here in Houston, I do know that our local community activists and leaders, I don't necessarily have to like them or whatever, but they actually do coordinate with local law enforcement. Say, hey, we're going to be here. We're going to be doing this. I think they were trying to go a little too far. I think they were just pushing things to see what they could do. And HPD was like, yeah, no, we're not. You're not getting on the freeway.
Yeah.
No, but that ain't going to happen. Going back to it, you start texting me saying, hey, this is what's going on. And the night before, I did the same thing to Jonathan because I know Jonathan is super, super crazy busy. And he and I were just having a conversation recently that he's like, he hasn't even had time to really watch the news in probably 3 weeks because he's now dealing with his new position at this new company and everything, and he's going just full on out with it. And so as soon as I heard that it was pretty definite that the decision was coming out, I wasn't sure if he was in New York or if he was in Las Vegas, or I wasn't 100% sure where he was. And so I started texting him saying, I know you're not watching the news. This is what's going on. And this is about what time it's all supposed to pop. So just make sure that the wife and kid are locked down, and that wherever you are, you're locked down. And he's like, thanks. I'm at home. I wasn't watching. Now I'm going to start watching. And that goes back to having community and having communication. So, and we don't have any kind of clear plan about that.
No,
it's just more of a friendship thing. And I don't think I wouldn't fault anybody for having a clear plan of this is how we alert our network of friends. I think that's perfectly fine. For us, it works out well. I think we all have a general sense of where we are and who's paying attention to what and who's not paying attention to what. So, and we're all pretty empathetic and caring guys. And so we jump on. We're like, hey, dumbass, pay attention to the news. Or, hey, dumbass, I don't know where you are, but you're probably about to drive into the middle of something you don't want to drive into. So
that was exactly my mindset.
Yes.
Because I know that you cut through that area quite a bit sometimes.
Yeah.
Just going back and forth. And, you take the local streets versus the freeways. Freeways, you'll just bypass it over. But if you're taking like little local back streets, man, you might just turn around the corner and be like slammed right in the middle of this giant crowd. Exactly. And that's what I was wanting to avoid. I was like, where you at?
Yeah.
I was like, it's heading in your direction. Are you home? This, that, whatever, safe. In a safe location, then all right, cool.
Yeah. And then immediately when I got that from you, I turned around and sent that on to my brother, and then sent that on to Jennifer, both of whom are in the general vicinity. But with my parents, I had already said something the day before. It was like, for the next week, I want y'all to not dawdle around your office, because they'll usually fart around at the office for a little while after they close up. And I was like, y'all need to get in the car, get home. Y'all need to not be out on the streets and everything. I don't think they would see an issue in their neighborhood because it's outside the realm of location, geography, demographics, mostly old gay men in their neighborhood.
So they might get baton to death. Oh my God.
But yeah, so it was just kind of like, hey, be aware of this is going on. But, Jen, my brother, and then Jonathan, of course.
I had the ulterior motive of, okay, I'm going to drive in from this direction. You drive towards me.
If you need to be bailed out, it was like, no, back to.
We'll run the whole extraction team.
Yeah. No, I finally get to use my mobile scout training. Damn it, James. Why didn't you teach me how to do this solo?
Exactly.
He's all talking to himself. One man by himself goes in. It was funny. There was a book. Who's it? Jailborn.
Jail porn?
No, nothing to do with porn. J.L. Bourne, the author of Day by Day Armageddon.
Got it. Okay.
He's come out with a new book, and it just I'm rambling, but it was just kind of funny because that was how the description of a new book he's coming out with. It was like, one man alone taking America back from the brink, and I was like, oh, this is awful. I want to read it. But anyway, a little shout out for an author I really, really like.
Rock on.
No, I don't know him personally. I really like his books. I don't know him. But anyway, yeah, and I think that all goes back to being aware, staying in communication, having a good network, especially if you're going to be a dumbass like me and not pay attention to local news, or be a dumbass like Jonathan and not pay attention to anything. And in all fairness, I think he actually was aware of it. But anyway, he's like, no, I'm armed, I'm good, we're all fine. And so anyway, and to segue very poorly off that, speaking of armed,
toys.
We talk about guns today. We haven't talked about guns in forever.
Right?
It's like, how do you have a survivalist show and barely ever talk about guns? What does it matter with that? What does it matter with us? Totally fallen down. We've had Framageddon.
Yes.
We are now dubbing the death of all things on the farm. Farmageddon. Well, it was Farmageddon for the chickens, and it was just like Gimpygeddon for most of the rabbits.
That was, oh God.
I still think it was funny when earlier today I was like, because you have one of the rabbits at your house that you've turned into a pet, which is something I would do. I don't know how you got suckered in.
Because I have a wife and a child now.
Yeah. Big, strong man. Big strong man. Wife is like, don't kill the bunnies.
That one's so cute. And
Your
sweet.
wife had nothing to do with it.
All right, because the rabbit literally like walks up to me, hops up on my leg, gives me like little puppy dog eyes, and then lets me pet it. It's not all being crazy and spastic and trying to get out and run for its life and whatever. It was just being a really sweet little rabbit that all she wanted was a carrot that I was going over there to feed him.
Well, you know.
And I was like, all right.
We have some pretty tame rabbits. Only one of them is Psycho.
Right. And her name is Psycho.
Her name is Psycho. And earlier today, you're like, you get her. I'm not touching her.
I'm not messing with that. That's from the attack rabbit line.
Exactly.
I'm good.
But yeah, and you were funny because the point of it was you were like, yeah, she keeps like something's wrong with her feet. She's like, she doesn't. And I was like, I'm pretty sure she's one of the ones that lost toes in Farmageddon. She's got battle scars.
Farmageddon. That's still just
it was funny because we went up there today. We were looking at it and you're like, we got to get on this. And I was like, yeah, but it's like weird now without the chickens. Like the farm really just doesn't seem the same. And we will get back to guns in a second. We're going to cover this, but the farm just doesn't seem the same without the chickens.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. Yeah. To me, it's not even a farm. It's just, we have a couple of cages with some rabbits in them.
We have a lot of rabbit poop.
Yeah. That's it.
And some rabbits.
I miss Randy.
Randy the rooster was a special kind of awesome.
Yeah, he really was.
All the ladies agreed. Randy was, well, Randy. And he was a stud cock. So
yeah, and strutted his stuff.
He was a strutting mofo.
Dude, they were just so entertaining. We'd go up there and just watch the chickens for like an hour.
Rabbits don't make any noise. And so there's no like life to it.
They're really boring.
They are kind of, well, when you're breeding them, it's funny. Like, look at them go!
Boom. Top of the cage. Bam.
Exactly. That's always entertaining when they actually manage to hit the top of the cage. It's like, man, that's impressive. Not to go down that rabbit hole and start listening to a weird show. But it was, and I think we've kind of thought of it as, hey, let's not bother with chickens. Let's get the water thing situated. Once you're done being done with Babygeddon.
Right.
Everything's going to end in Geddon today, I think. Babygeddon and well, tactical sling baby.
I'm about to say you would have to bring that up.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're about to talk about guns, so we got to be what weird. And you did say you were going to turn everything into like baby tactical.
Yeah.
So, and that has started because we've seen the weird pictures where you look hungover, and it's just because your wife hasn't let you. You haven't left the house in like 3 weeks. This is the first time you've left the house in like 3 weeks.
It is.
And
it's actually been 4 weeks.
Look what I did with this tactical sling. I got a baby in it. Wait. Okay, so here's my question. Whatever that sling thing was that you sent to Jonathan and I, that picture,
right?
Was that some sort of tactical sling, or was it a baby thing you managed to turn into a tactical?
It was a baby thing that I managed to turn into a tactical thing.
That's impressive.
It's a kind of like a swaddle, long, kind of narrow-looking, thin blanket thing.
Yeah.
Imagine just taking a sheet, a queen-size sheet, and cutting it in half. That's about the size of it.
Okay.
Right? And it wraps around your body. And you do this like special, like there's several different positions and ways to carry the baby and so on and so forth. Right. So yeah, and listeners, I was geeking out and looking at YouTube and watching this stuff because
you're also bored out of your freaking skull.
Yes, exactly. So it's black.
Yes.
So I could like
it's automatically tactical.
Oh yeah, cool. Flipping this thing around, I was like, oh, this will work. And I can put the baby here and I can hold a gun here. And it's just I had to go in my bathroom. I was snapping pictures and I was sending it to John and Aaron. I'm like, dude, check this out, man.
And I did get a text from him. He has not left the house since that baby. And I was like, no, I don't know if she locked him up. I was like, maybe giving them the super high tech video camera and me joking with your wife that it wasn't really for watching the baby. It was actually for keeping an eye on you. I was like, maybe that was a bad idea because now he's a prisoner. He and the baby are a prisoner. So you're turning baby stuff into tactical.
I'm learning some very good survival prep skills. Emergency backpacks, how to prep and be prepared for any kind of, even multiple situations.
And that whatever pellet gun you were using does not work for crap on a rabbit.
No, it goes all the way through them. Jesus.
Tell that story real quick, because I thought that was, because, that is a thing that comes up often on forums as far as the question about pellet guns for survival. And I guess if it's all you have, it's all you have.
Right.
And while we only did that experiment with the rabbits and a pellet gun at one time, we were also using a high-powered, and we were also using, they were like the really expensive, like Beeman hollow point pellets.
Right.
That actually do. But even those, you had to be right up on it, and it had to be in the back of the head for the rabbits.
Yeah, it was more the shot placement because it was so up close.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Halloween pops up, and of course, during that time period, Aaron is gone.
Nowhere to be found.
Well, we had an overload of rabbits. We'd been needing Nicole for way too long. So anyways, I ended up grabbing 15 rabbits and taking them all the way back to my house. And you have to understand, I live out in the burbs.
That's more than the burbs, man. It's like I watch out for cows when
whatever, you interlooper. Anyways, I had one escape. And of course, it was a runner. You couldn't get more than 10 meters from this thing. So it escapes. It runs across. Actually, the whole reason how I found out was someone was walking their dog. It was like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I knew it got it out of the cage and was running around the backyard, but I was like, whatever, I'll pop with the pellet gun later and it's no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, it got out and it was in the front yard and he knocked on my door and I opened up the door and there's this giant Great Dane standing at my front door. And I'm like, hello, buddy. He was like, we just wanted to let you know that, I think you have a pet rabbit out here in your front lawn. I'm like, shut up. I'm like, oh, damn it. It's already going to be bad enough because when I pulled up with all the rabbits, a neighbor actually pulled up and was like, hey, man, you need any help? I actually scratched up my car pretty bad trying to pull these rabbits out, right? So I've already got other neighbors. I'm like, oh, God. I don't want everyone knowing them back here doing like,
slaughtering bunnies.
Slaughtering the rabbit Armageddon. Rah. Anyways, this one gets out. So I go and I buy this pellet gun. And I'm just like, all right, we've tried to catch him a couple times.
Quick question. Why didn't you just come borrow my pellet gun? Why'd you go buy one?
Too far. And of course that was a perfect excuse for me to have another toy.
Okay. All right. I was just, that's what I assumed. I was just checking.
That's exactly
I'm really just screwing with you. I know you wanted your own pellet gun because they're awesome. I love my pellet gun.
Well, in the city, you can't use a gun.
Well, technically, you can't use a pellet gun either, I don't think.
No. It's a pellet gun. Yeah, you can use a pellet gun or a bow and arrow.
Okay.
And I didn't have any actual arrows, and I hadn't practiced with my recurve bow in I don't know how long. Yeah. And I thought it would be that much more inconspicuous me, walking down a suburban neighborhood street with a big giant bow versus me just sneaking over there real quick and popping off.
Yeah, because guns never freak people out at all. Yeah, versus a bow.
Yeah,
no. Anyway,
yeah.
Go on.
And I'm surprised about how powerful those things are.
Yeah,
I took a shot at him.
A good one.
No,
I mean a good. The good ones are pretty powerful.
Yeah. I thought I had a nice clean shot. I thought I had a nice good clean kill.
Yeah.
I took my shot. He was sitting there and I was like, okay, cool. Walked back over there to my house, set the rifle back up because of course I didn't want to be walking around with the thing.
Yeah.
And walked back over there and gone. I'm like, what? It's like, I know I hit him. I just been practicing in my backyard for the last hour, waiting for this little, to go for hunting season the next morning.
Rabbit season.
And okay, so look around for about an hour, can't find him at all. And I'm just like, all right, he'll pop up again. Next morning, wife goes to work, get her text message. You may want to come get the rabbit. He's in the middle of the neighbor's yard, in the middle of the front yard, laid out.
Dead.
It's like dead.
Okay.
I'm just like, oh God. I felt so bad because it was an unclean kill.
Yeah.
Still, it went all the way through him.
Plus, I'm sure your neighbor was like, "Why is there a dead rabbit in my yard?"
He didn't see. It was It was early in the morning enough.
Oh, okay.
It was bad. Two of the neighbors had ran across the street when I tried to catch it the first time.
Yeah,
and it had been hanging out at their two houses.
And
one of them actually called animal control to try and come catch the rabbit. And of course, they tried for like a half an hour, and I was giggling to go in, looking through, peeking through my windows.
You're like
giggling.
Getting popcorn, like it's going to be a show.
This will be good
because they're not out there with pellet guns doing that. They're out there with nooses trying to catch a rabbit.
Not even that. She had like a little kennel, and she was just trying to like scoot it in.
Oh yeah,
I'm just like, that's going to work.
That's going to work. I mean, our rabbits are tame. Our rabbits are tame. They're not stupid. Like, I'm not falling for that trick.
I went over there and talked to my neighbor, and I told her, I was like, look, that's not a pet rabbit. That's just a meat pen rabbit. I'll tell you what, whenever I get rid of that little problem, I'll go ahead and I'll bring you a big pint of gumbo afterwards. And that worked out just fine. She was like, oh, really? Okay. No problem. I didn't see nothing. You just let me know.
Yeah. You can bribe a Houstonian just about anything if you offer him gumbo.
Yes.
Yes.
Especially my gumbo. Yes.
Well, your gumbo is kind of amazing. You're going to gain 50 pounds after eating it, but yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
it's good.
so
But that was my little
what you're saying
adventure.
is the pellet gun was actually not very effective.
No.
Now, that was it was also a 20. Did you say it was 22
it's a 22
caliber?
and it was a hollow point lead pellet.
Yeah.
But it did not take it out. And it was a decent shot right behind the shoulder. You would think that would.
Because that should have been a lung shot.
Yeah.
And our rabbits have pretty good lungs.
Yeah.
We've examined enough of those freaking lungs that, yeah. So.
I mean, I had to end up shooting one in the backyard too that was running around crazy and wouldn't let me get close to it. And
I can't imagine why.
I know, right?
It's like, I don't want to be gumbo.
It took me 3 shots with the pellet gun to finally take him out.
Yeah.
I did not like that at all.
No, that's from just a humane standpoint.
Yeah, that just...
And from a survival standpoint, you wouldn't want to be cooking off rounds and just injuring an animal that, in a real, like, grid down zombie apocalypse kind of thing, like, you'd want one shot, one kill. And I think we have found that 22s still, are the best thing for that. I wouldn't go with anything larger than a 22.
No, you would just you would mess up too much meat.
Yeah, you would just. If you hit it with like a 223 556, basically you just blow it up because the velocity is so high. Unless you got like a really clean headshot, but even then, unless it was one of those like Barnes varmint grenades, and then you just vaporize it. But that's if you're not squeamish and you want to watch a twisted yet funny video, go look up the Barnes varmint grenade videos. It's like. Now you see it, now you don't. It's just kind of like this red vapor all of a sudden. Anyway, I wish they would make 22 ammo for that. But anyway, no, I think, because that is a question, like we said in the beginning, that is a question that I always see come up, no matter how many times I've seen it debated, as far as is a pellet gun a good survival tool? And it's like, yeah, I guess so.
I'd say the spring-loaded ones are simply for the fact of if you don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And it will kill something.
It will kill something. It's just a matter of how clean of a kill is it. Yeah. And in the survival situation, the issue is it should still be about being humane, but it's less about that and more about you don't want your dinner running off when you popped it. You want it to go down right then and there.
Right.
And not have to spend another 12 hours looking for the thing like you ran into. And yeah, the pellet gun I have is a Beeman, and I think it's rated at something ridiculous, like 1,400 feet per second or something. And I use mine for taking rats off power lines, which is a Houston thing. If you live in Houston, everybody in Houston, it's like a rat highway. It's just the worst thing ever. And everybody's like, you have rats in here. It's like, no, everyone has rats in their neighbors. They all run on the power lines. Anyway, but that's what I do for entertainment is I pop them off the power line. Plus, I hate the little bastards. The only animal I actually do not feel bad about ever killing. Ever.
Right.
I don't want them to suffer either, but I never feel bad about killing them. Because I freaking hate rats. But more to the point, pellet gun, interesting experiment, even though it was not planned. And I guess fortunately for your neighbor's lawns, you did finally catch the little goober.
Yes. It's amazing how much, literally they ate my entire garden.
Mm-hmm.
I had some chimuras that I was raising up from seed.
Mm-hmm.
I actually took those down. It's amazing what a couple of rabbits, how much damage they can do to a backyard in a very short amount of period of time.
Yeah.
Literally all of my onions were gone.
Yeah.
All of my tomatoes looked like they were freshly trimmed up from about a foot down.
Mm-hmm.
They literally ate the branches off.
Yeah.
Even ate my pepper plants all the way down to stem.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad you couldn't use a 22 on them. I guess the optimal thing actually is a shotgun, but you're definitely not going to start cooking off a shotgun.
Not in the middle of a suburb. No.
Not around other houses, period.
Right.
If you're way truly out in the country and you're not in danger.
Well, I'm grabbing a 410, man. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
All day long.
Come on out. We're going to have a rabbit hunt.
Bring the dogs.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think in other gun related news, you started to become a Glock convert here.
Oh God! See, you sold me on it, and of course my wife has Glocks.
Mm.
So I was kind of familiar with them, and so on and so forth. A good deal popped up that I could just not say no to, and I ended up getting the exact same stinking Glock that you just bought.
Yeah, the Glock 26. And I fully admit I am and Jonathan, all three of us are recent converts. Me, me especially, because I get it now. I finally get it after shooting one some and after just having one and not feeling bad about banging around with it and sweating all over because it's Houston. You're gonna sweat all over your gun. Which after a $200 bill from the gunsmith to refinish parts within my my fancy custom SIG that I had. And that SIG was like a weatherproof thing, but it's still whatever in your sweat. Just still, it ate up the magazine catch.
Wow!
And so that had to be refinished, and it ate up something else too. Now, I mean, I was sweating all over that gun for several years.
Right.
Yes, I lubricated the thing. It was plenty lubricated. It was just a lot of sweat. I mean, I sweat a lot too. So, but
it's great thing about plastic gun, man.
Man,
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it just simply is.
It really is. So, now, did you experience the same thing I did as far as with shot your group sizes with the 26? Did you experience that weirdness too?
Very weird when I first started shooting it because it's got a mushy trigger.
You don't expect, when you first go off of a more classic trigger, like you've got the CZ Phantoms and stuff like that. When you go off of that onto a Glock, you do not expect them to be very accurate or to shoot them well. More, no pun intended, more accurately put, you don't expect to shoot them as well as they do. They shoot really well.
Yeah. And particularly for a compact.
Yeah. And that little bitty thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my CZ compact, which is actually a little bigger than that, I've worked with that so much. And I can say that I probably shot the Glock better than I did my compact.
Yeah. And I've run into the same thing.
And it amazed me. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This blocky plastic. I was like, whatever it works. All right, I'm sold.
Yeah. And now you've also been playing with the AR pistol ever since.
Yeah, I finally got an AR. Yes, listeners, I finally bought an AR. I've never actually ever owned one. Go figure.
Well, you're Mr. AK, so
yeah.
And more important, you're Mr. Sega.
I like my Sega 12. I'm actually a giant VZ fan.
Yeah,
the VZ58 is. I'm sorry, the
you're not talking to an AK guy, so I don't really. You're not going to offend me or care. I don't care.
The check thing it goes down. It's a CZ gun.
I've shot it. It's fun. I wasn't a fan of the paratroopers like wire stock you have on it. I got it, but it was like I was shooting it. I was like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable.
Anyways, so I finally bit the bullet after taking these mobile scout classes. I wanted something really short, so I ended up building an AR pistol, and I actually shot it for the first time today. And I was like, this is cool. It's just so tight and compact and it's perfect for the truck.
Now, we were at lunch, we were talking about SBRs versus the pistols.
Yes.
And I have heard, I had no personal experience with, because I have not shot the AR pistol yet. The experience I have, which is with actual SBRs, like SBR, short barreled, full stock.
Right.
AR-15s and MP5s.
Right.
And done some training and work with those. Those are cool.
I can definitely say definitively.
The Sig Arm Brace.
The Sig Arm Brace is not a stock.
It's cool. Like, I think people make it out to be more than it is, but a lot of people are like, look, it's not the same, but it's a nice stopgap measure, and then it doesn't involve the weight or the paperwork or the $200 tax stamp or any of that.
Right.
My thing is, they know you have guns anyway. You're not hiding anything from anybody. Unless you went somewhere and bought one in cash, which I'm not saying is a bad thing to do. But I am saying it's not like they don't already know you have it. I mean, it's kind of like when everybody found out, oh my God, the NSA is spying on us. And it's like that old Casablanca line, shocked there is gambling in this establishment. It's like, no, they know you ain't hiding. Because you have those people that are like, I don't want to do any of the ATF work because then I know I haven't. I'm like, they know anyway. They probably just assume you have crap you're not even telling them about. I mean, that's what I just assume that they know, and we'll call it a day. But I think I am going to, at some point very soon, since I am revamping my my arms collection.
The armory room. Yeah.
The armory. I'm getting rid of a bunch of things and looking at introducing a few new things. And at least 2 things, maybe 3, I am intentionally holding until the upcoming presidential elections, because I don't think it matters what direction that goes in. there's going to be a big brouhaha in the gun community, especially with Hillary running. Personally, I hate them all, so don't think I care I don't care who runs at this point. I hate them all. Yes. I'm just going to say that now. I don't care who runs. I don't care. I just don't like any of them.
Just leave us alone.
To be clear, I wish none of them any harm, but I just, it's like, as soon as I hear politicians, I'm like, asshole. And I'm not even going to bleep that out today. I'm just going to say it. Asshole.
Awesome.
I am fully sold on the concept known as anarchy. I'm just done with all of it. I really am. I'm just like, I'm done with all of it. Anyway, I've gone long past libertarian. I'm just like done with all of it. But the point being, I think I am going to go do an SBR now that I'm done with my suppressors.
Which I need to catch up
now that's the next thing you need to do. So now I have an Octane 9 coming one day when the ATF, which the good news for anybody that actually does follow that stuff, apparently, and they're doing it in a really weird way. To take a short side jaunt, if you did it about 6 months ago, you're coming up right on the time that you should be getting in. So you're in a way kind of screwed there because you had to wait the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're applying for stuff now, my understanding is it's down to like 30 days.
Yeah, I know for like the Form 1, so like the SBRs, the short barrel shotguns, those are going through really, really fast.
Yeah.
I think the suppressor stuff got tremendously faster. It's not the whole year and a half the first suppressor you guys got was
the first suppressor ridiculous. I got was actually no. The first suppressor I got wasn't that bad. My first suppressor was my 22 suppressor, and that took 4 months.
Okay.
My second suppressor was my 308 suppressor. That took 9 months.
That's just ridiculous.
It was nuts, but it was literally, I forgot I technically owned one until Robert called me and was like, "Hey, your tax stamp's in." I'm like, "Tax stamp for what?" "You own a suppressor." "Oh crap, you're right, I do." "All right, well, are you going to be there in an hour? I'll swing by and pick it up." And and it was one of those things where the wait was so long that I had gotten so hyped up in the beginning. And then literally forgot I owned a suppressor that was just sitting in someone else's safe.
Yeah.
And then when I got the call and I got over there and I was like, woohoo, brought it home, attached to the end of my rifle and was like, okay, well, I guess that's done. So, all right. Well, it's not less exciting. And I don't really have time today to go take it to the gun range. And I think by that point I'd gotten irritated with the gun range that I was a member of.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I don't know where I'm going to shoot this. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But point being,
yeah, that's my next little adventure.
To me, I know they're a big expense, but my thing is, if you're into this stuff, even if you're just into guns, they are totally worth it. I love mine. I absolutely love mine. I would much prefer to shoot with them more often than not. There's very little point in shooting without them. It's a much more pleasant shooting experience, especially with my FAL, which is a big, noisy tank beast of that thing is hog of a.
Oh God, that is the Thunderstick. It's like the Sega 12, dude.
It may actually be worse because it's like I think they went out of their way to make that gun more loud than it should be.
The percussion. I remember when we did the Appleseed shoot. Yeah, brought the thing over. The percussion. You were like 10 stalls over.
Yeah.
And I was getting hot brass on my back.
Yes.
And you could feel the percussion from that far away. I'm like, dude, what are you shooting, a cannon? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it was like, it's just a foul, but
it's like boom.
Oh, it was
boom.
obnoxious.
It's like,
but the funniest thing to me too was still like I have my Monet and all this other stuff that throws brass like a few feet. Yeah. The stupid foul was throwing brass like it was like 15 feet.
Oh, easy. I
was pegging you and Jonathan. Like, I think they held the line and was like, can you move further down, Aaron? You're hitting shooters with 30 caliber hot brass.
Jesus.
Except Scout. Scout's like, rifleman's bubble. Let it burn. Scout, if you are listening, I'm sorry. I just saw your email. I've been really bad about checking my email lately.
Man, we have to go up. We have to go see him.
Yeah,
man.
we do.
We are due.
Yes.
Definitely do.
Yeah, I think I'm holding on to a few things just to wait for the inevitable shenanigans that will happen, and then I think I'm going to part ways with 2 rifles. I think, and the new thing I'm looking at towards. I was excited about it first, and then hesitant about it, I wanted to see it prove out more, but I am now very excited about the 300 Blackout.
Yeah, let's segue
the 300 Blackout. And I think the thing with that round is you have to understand what it was designed for.
Right.
The other thing is you have to take into account reality, which is it is highly unlikely that outside of punching holes in paper, you're going to be pushing lead past 200 yards.
Right.
Most instances, whether, it's hunting or whatever else, you're not going to take these. I mean, yeah, if you're shooting, hunting in the Rocky Mountains and you're shooting from one peak to the next to shoot some mountain goat or something, yeah, maybe you're going to, clear 300-400 yards. But I mean, I know my shooting abilities and I know I could take up to probably about a 500-yard shot confidently at an animal and not think I'm just going to maim it and that it's going to be a humane shot.
Which is an accomplishment all in itself.
Yeah, I still wouldn't take the shot because I'm just like, nah. Part of it is I just wouldn't want to lug the animal, go walk over there and go walk over there and lug this animal around. But that's because I'm becoming more and more lazy in my old age. The other thing is I unless I was really in a life or death situation, I wouldn't take the shot because it's too much of a thing. So this goes back to what is that round designed for? And I'm banging on the dust accidentally. The round is designed to be suppressed. It's intended to be it's really within 300-yard shooter, and it's accurate enough. That's all. Oh my God, you get these people on the internet. I read it on the internet. You get these people that it's not that. It's more accurate than I would say 99% of the shooters I know, and I know some pretty good shooters.
Yeah,
I maybe know a handful that actually would even experience the difference and appreciate and shoot a rifle to its full capabilities. A handful. And 300 for what it's intended, which is 100 or close quarters out to 300 yards. It can go past 300 yards, but really out to 300. Right. It's really designed to be a under 300 yards, very highly suppressed weapon. And Remington just came out with the Remington 700 chambered in 300 Blackout. Unfortunately, they're still doing the same. The funny thing is they're claiming that they came out with that rifle. It's in a 16 or 16.5 inch barrel for law enforcement. They wanted something with more punch than 5.56 for when they have to do SWAT sniper stuff. But they didn't want and didn't need all the juice of a 308. So Remington is claiming that this was being requested because of its ability to be suppressed, because it is accurate enough, even in a tactical sniper situation under 300 yards, and it's lighter and easier to deal with than a 308. And 308, you suppress a 308 and you do subsonic ammo. You do have a pretty significant accuracy loss, much greater accuracy loss than 300 Blackout, from what I've seen and the reports I've read and stuff like that. On the internet. So I'm kidding. Most of them from reputable people. But to me, in an urban survival situation and in an urban environment, it makes the most sense. I'm not a giant fan of the AR. I have one. I like it well enough. There's other rifles I like, but my favorite setup is the M1A. Agreed. That could be mostly because of being an Appleseed shooter. And that's what, I'm used to that. M1A, that Ruger 1022, everything is you can operate everything from the right-hand side of the gun and keep your support arm in place. To me, I like it a lot better. But for an urban survival situation, for something that's really going to punch, something that suppresses really well, 300 Blackout's looking really cool. So I think I am going to end up doing an SBR AR platform in that. And depending on what we do know somebody that just bought the 700, and I won't name him because I don't give. I'll tell people what guns I have. I don't generally give away what guns other people have. So somebody else we know got one. It is pretty awesome and pretty sweet trigger on it. We didn't have time to shoot it, but it's a really nice trigger. Smooth enough bolt action and everything else. But it was just the right weight, just the right size. And it was like, even a bolt action, this is perfect for an urban environment.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, it's like all of the mags I already have. I don't have to go get new magazines or anything. I just have to change out the upper and go through the SBR ATF tax stamp wait and dance thing. So that's what I'm looking at.
See, what's funny is, of course, I'm the AK guy.
Yeah.
That particular round has actually been dubbed the American AK round.
Yeah, I knew that. It essentially is.
It's almost identical ballistics wise. I was actually, when I was building my AR, I was actually going to do a 7.62.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, I was going to do the 7.62 by 39, the AK round in an AR.
Which makes absolutely no sense, Jason. Why would you? You already had a VZ. Why were you going to do that?
So that I could have something in a shorter version.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm mostly just screwing.
8.5 inch barrel. Yeah. Something I can tuck up real close for close quarter combat stuff.
Yeah.
Now that I've actually bought it and stuck it next to my VZ, when the VZ's stock is folded, they are about the same size.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pointless. But I'm starting to lean towards that because I've taken down 300-pound hogs with a 223. I didn't believe in it. I've been proven wrong over and over and over again. I know how accurate it is. But you know what I think it all boils down to? When I'm punching paper, it's that difference between that 22-inch hole and that 30 caliber hole. And I just look at it and I'm just like, that little
does the 223 make you feel less manly?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right.
That's what it all boils down to.
All right.
I've shot a 300-pound wild boar. Yeah. One shot, one kill.
The right ammo. There is some really, really good. Although the ammo you were using for that is kind of hard to come by. It was like what? It was a
Scorbun.
Oh, you were using I thought you were using. There was a Winchester soft point that was like it was like a 64 grade soft point. That is the only Winchester 5.56 ammo, 5.56 223 ammo, whatever that has a deer on the box and was meant for deer hunting. Although I think I would only hit Texas deer with that. I don't think I'd hit anybody else's deer with it. I still don't trust it beyond that. But yeah, no, I remember
it's a very effective round.
It is. It doesn't suppress for shit.
Yeah, that totally shocks me.
All the redeeming qualities of that round are in its hypersonic range. When you start doing subsonic, it's like, well, you might as well just
do a 22.
You might as well just do a 22 at that point. And it's 308's a bit much. Even when it suppresses well at subsonic, but it's still kind of like, eh. And that's why I'm really excited about finally really like, okay, I'll get on the 300 bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm even giving up, and I'm like, all right, because I'm such a fan of those ballistics.
Yeah,
and they're literally almost identical to the AK ballistics.
And for what most people are going to, most people aren't even going to use it for that. Let's all be honest with ourselves here. We're not. It's not the zombie apocalypse we're talking about here. But if I had to daydream in my head, it would be the most effective thing for an urban combat situation.
Yeah.
Which is the same reason apparently these PDs are starting to switch over to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it was designed. It was designed to be the MP5 killer.
Surprisingly, especially with that. Have you seen the new Troy stock that I was talking about?
I think Jonathan was telling me about it. I hadn't seen it yet.
I mean, literally, it takes the AR all the way down to like the stock down to about 4 inches total. So, I mean, most collapsible stocks are still 8 inches.
Yeah.
Just because of the buffer tube. But this thing's got a really shortened buffer tube. I mean, can you imagine having a 300 with that attached to it and an 8.5 inch barrel and an SBR? And that would literally be the same size as an MP3, but you'll have a 30 caliber round.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's
perfect for close
technically
combat.
with the MP3 and MP5 you have a 30 caliber round too, but it's a pistol round. It's not a rifle round.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. I mean, it's 9mm, I guess is actually 30. But point being, it's hitting with, I think if I remember correctly, the force it's hitting with is more than a 45 caliber as opposed to a 9mm.
Right.
So and I go back to it suppresses really, really well. And in an urban combat situation, you got to suppress it. So when you're hunting bunnies in the middle of a suburbs, no, please don't ever try that at home, kids. And neither did we. We didn't do that. But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of what's been going on in our gun world. We haven't really gotten a chance to talk about guns in a while. We've been covering other stuff like Ebola and Mobile Scout and Shooting James and more Ebola and
Farmageddon.
And Farmageddon. So we are going to, and the quick thing about that, I guess we'll probably get the chickens this spring if we can get the water thing ever, if we can ever get the water tower finished.
God.
But it's there's a lot of moving parts to that project.
Yes.
So, and it's not a small project. I mean, what is it? It's almost 2,000 gallons, but it's, individual cubes, and it's going to take us at least 2 days because we like to fart around when we get out there and do stuff and sit around and start talking about contemplating our navels and the meaning of the universe. Then it's, well, I guess the day's gone. So, but anyway, and I think, speaking again, another really bad segue today. Speaking of guns and urban survival and urban combat, there's a few things that came up, and we mentioned it early in the episode as far as questions that arose from last season, and some of it was from James. Some things that James brought up because we were talking about bug out bags and things like that, and he was talking about the reality of these situations. And a few people got onto the forum and were like, okay, now I'm really confused and I'm feeling like it's just make me question everything that I've done and doing. And my response to it on the forum was good. That was actually the point.
Right.
And the bigger picture behind it is, I like James. I respect the hell out of James. And I don't agree with everything that James has to say on some of that stuff. And my point to people is, I'm never going to bring people on just to have them agree with us and agree with our. I mean, one is I want to hear what they have to say and I want to learn from them.
It's the different perspectives.
But it's to bring a different perspective. And it goes back to what we were talking about with the guys on the roof during the LA riot. It's you have to think for yourself. You have to call into question what is the right scenario or what is the right course of action and what are the right equipment and supplies and everything else based on your situation. We'll start off with flashlights and then we'll work to the other stuff. So the flashlight. So we had the guy from Going Gear on who did a really great show all about flashlights. And we were talking about these super high-tech lithium ion battery, crazy flashlights and everything else. Then we have James comes on and James is like, no, I wouldn't use anything but AA because in a third world country, that's what US is going to be if you have a collapse. And here's where I agree 100% with what James was saying as far as the situations he was in for that.
Right.
My concern is not a full-on third world country grid down scenario for the United States. I see it as definitely being possible. I don't see it as being likely, at least not anytime soon. You never know. Again, you have to think for yourself for everything. That could change tomorrow. Who knows? But in our situation, those batteries actually are fairly plentiful. I think unless you're somebody that uses those kinds of lights and actually does pay attention to the battery racks in the CVSs and the Walgreens and wherever you are that you buy batteries. I was in Kroger, which is, I guess Kroger's just like a southern chain of just grocery store.
Yeah, it's just a grocery store. It's a local regional grocery store.
They had CR123 batteries in the grocery store. Yeah. And they had CR123 batteries in Walgreens. And they had CR123 batteries in CVS.
Right.
They did not have the 18650 batteries, but again, those are also rechargeable batteries and you should have some sort of charger with you. And unless you are just running around like a maniac with your flashlight on all the time, on full blast, as I've recently found, those things last for freaking ever. The other caveat to that is you have to think about the situation you're in. So for me, I want to try to focus in on one thing and really, I spread things out a little bit. I also have some old fashion mag lights that are AA, and I keep some AA's on hand. The problem I run into is in storing them. Again, we're preppers, so we store stuff for a long time. I have CR123 batteries stored in my house that are just fine and have lasted for, I want to say, I try to cycle through them as fast as I can, but I've got some that are as old as 3 years, and they're fine. In a climate-controlled environment. I have some other packs of batteries that I wasn't doing an experiment, but I realized it was an experiment when I had stored them in a warehouse at my family's company. They use a lot of AA's for the laptops and stuff they use for inventory control and things like that. Not for the laptops, for the scanners. And those batteries went bad, which kind of sucked because it was 2 big cases of battery, went bad in under a year. Like, full on acids leaking out, corroding. Now, the other thing, I keep a car bag, and that I suggest people keep a car bag before they keep a bug out bag, which we'll come to that topic in a second. I'm in Texas heat. No, those batteries would be toast in like 3 months. And I know I've actually had them leak all over one of my car bags, which I ended up having to throw away everything that was in the bag and throw away. Actually, no, I ended up being able to wash out the bag and clean it out.
Oh, wow.
And that became Jennifer's range bag. So I've had those, the AA's go bad in my car, which did nothing great for the carpet under my, the back seat of my Tahoe at the time either. So now the CR123s, those have been in the back of my truck for a couple of years now, and they actually still work and still have juice and haven't leaked. And that's the difference. It's like, what is the context? What are you trying to do? Yeah, AA is more plentiful, and AA in a lot of instances would be easier to come by. And in the situations where James was talking about in a third world country where, no, okay, you're not going to have CVS's and Walgreens and all these other things that are carrying these high-end lithium batteries. But those batteries aren't just for these high-tech flashlights. I mean, that's a lot of digital cameras and stuff like that use these things. And a lot more stuff in general is requiring a lot higher voltage and a lot more juice and are actually using those higher end batteries. And so in the context of I need a light and I need to be able to store stuff in my truck and not have to worry about it corroding and going bad, then in that situation, the lithium batteries work, the high-end batteries work better. In the situation James is talking about, no, they don't work that well. All right, sorry about that. That whole section of the show is going to sound weird because the Mac now rings through to your computer and it's not turned off, and so there's a couple people decided to start calling me in the middle of the show. Anyway, so batteries in that situation, it makes sense. In James' situation, it makes sense to go with AA. In other instances, if you can store the batteries in a climate-controlled area, AA makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But you don't get the same light output out of the light. And I like the really bright tactical lights. Mm-hmm. Another thing, and I'm going to wind people up who are the EMP bugs. Here's a caveat for the crazy lithium batteries. They have a processor, like basically kind of they have circuitry in them, unlike regular batteries. So in an EMP, I don't know about regular alkaline batteries, but in an EMP, I did find out recently that, yeah, those crazy lithium batteries, toast.
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't either until recently. But then again, I mean, so is everything going to be electrical. So
that brings up a good point. It's good to have a kind of a different array.
Yeah, and like I said, I do. I mean, I have those older small AA mag lights that I have as backup. Plus, I have a ton of those batteries, and I now have a lot more of the lithium batteries, and those are the flashlights I tend to go with. And I love my lithium battery, and I would go. Now, if I was going to go on some wild, crazy excursion with James, I actually might bring both. If weight and space allowed for it, I might take, one of my crazy rechargeable flashlights with me and also throw in one of the spare like AA inexpensive, like $15 mag lights in there and just say, all right, well, if I need it, if this craps out on me, I've got this. And it goes back to 2 is 1, 1 is none. And 3 is a party. So, and I think other things going on as far as the bug out bag comment that we were talking about in the last episode or in last season. I think if you're going to be putting together kits, I actually think a bug out bag is the last kit you need to put together.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, it is the first kit everyone puts together, myself included. I mean, we have a lot of old jokes about me putting together a crazy, stupid bug out bag. And it's been pared back and rearranged and redone. I can't tell you how many times over the years. And I think it's going back to our natural instincts as human beings are fight, flight, or freeze. That is a response to everything. And so we prepare to fight or we prepare to bug out. And so what do? We get a gun and we get a bug out bag. You're much less likely, as we've covered many times in this, that you're much less likely to bug out. I think the super tactical crazy I'm running off to the woods and it's going to be Red Dawn bags are, not that I haven't done it myself, are just, if you just want to do it because it's fun, that's cool. But admit, it's just because it's cool and fun to do.
I still don't have an EDC bail bag.
You've got a bag.
I've got a bag.
But you don't have like full-on bug out bag. No. And more important to me would be some sort of EDC bag, which you do actually have, and you carry around a few things. I mean, not like full-on crazy bag, but even I've pared back my EDC bag to some bare essentials, like a Leatherman and a pair of lock picks that you check your local laws if you ever get into that stuff, and an extra magazine and some maps of the area and some of the heavier duty Mylar shelters. And that's it. That's what's in my bag. Oh, metal Nalgene bottle and a fire starter. But I think the super bat utility belt, EDC bags and bucket bags.
Your first
my first bag. And then
what, that thing weigh like 40 pounds?
No, it was like 50 pounds. Which, I mean, there's a lot of people's bailout bags that are like 80, 120 pounds. And
that's like a truck bag, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is really the core thing there, is that is a truck bag at that point. And that is an Armageddon bag.
Exactly.
And my whole thing is you can work towards Armageddon, but start off with the simple stuff, which would be a blackout kit in your house. And I think this, in some part, this is where some people were getting confused as far as where or at least myself, I diverge with some people as far as when people are like, nah, I don't even bother. My thing is, in those situations, I don't want to have to think about where stuff is.
Right.
I want to know, I got this stuff, I'm ready to go. I'm not worried about forgetting stuff, and grab it and get out of the situation.
Right.
Not because I feel the overwhelming need to be out of the house in 30 seconds or less, or whatever I need to do in 30 seconds left, just because I don't want to think about it.
Right.
I don't want to have to be uncomfortable in a situation, worried about a situation or whatever, and then having to think, did I remember teddy bear?
Well,
or did not that I need a teddy bear, but
isn't that the whole premise of having a BOP? Is to have that
is
self-confidence?
Well, it is. And I think that really is what it becomes. And I don't think most people realize that until very late, that it's really about confidence and just comfort. And I mean, that's what most of it is. I mean, that's what most of our guns are.
Right.
You know, all the stuff we're joking around about. It's just about comfort, or just because it's a toy and you like it. I mean, I would say 99% of my collection is a toy.
Toys. Yeah.
Now, Zombies Rise Tomorrow. Oh, baby, is on. I am ready for that stuff. But let's be reasonable here. You know, so it's really about, you know, what is the more likely scenario? The more likely scenario is you're going to need to bug in, or you're going to need a blackout kit, which is just essentially all power goes out. You know where your flashlight is. You know where your extra batteries are. You know where your emergency radio is. You know where your fire extinguisher is. And it's in your room. Because I do know people that have woken up in the middle of the night in pitch black and gone and broken their toes in the middle of a hurricane. Well, I didn't know if you've done it too, but
no.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. We know somebody else that's done it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just you.
Huh?
Just you.
Oh, well, no, that was just waking up in the middle of the night and not turning on any lights. That wasn't anything in particular. But no, I mean, I do actually know who've woken. I've never broken any toes. Oddly enough, I've broken everything but toes.
Really?
Yeah, I've never broken toes. But that's what that's there for.
Right.
Is so that you don't have to go climbing. And that was one of the, like James brought up that, and I actually don't think it made it into the show. I think it may have just been a private conversation that we were having as far as he's like, I didn't even, when he was in Thailand and there were shenanigans going on in Thailand or wherever it was he was.
Yes, he was in Thailand.
He's like, I didn't even store water. And I was like, why didn't you store water? And he's like, well, because I can drive, you know, a few miles down the road here or there and you can get it. And my point to that is, yes, if you are James Gray and you are armed and you're, you know, super archer badass guy, sure, all right, and you're comfortable with going out into potentially hostile situations and you're used to it, fine. I've got a fair amount of training. My thing is, I wouldn't want to leave the house.
Right.
If I didn't, why do I want to go leave the house if I have to? And why,
why put yourself in harm's way?
Exactly.
That's the whole reason why we prep.
Just hunker down. Get out of it. And that goes back to level of experience, level of comfort. What is this? I mean, taking the entire situation into effect. And I think that's the thing that gets missed in a lot of people's preps is they want someone. It's like anything in life. You want somebody to tell you what to do. What's the exact right thing to do? And it's like, it depends. There is no right thing to do except keep breathing.
People are looking for some kind of an answer to help some kind of unconscious. What's the word I'm looking for?
No, and it's a fear, and I get that. I mean, we all got it. Almost everyone at some point gets into prep because of that, and that becomes a thing. So it really comes down to think about your situation, think about your needs, think about your resources. Don't automatically assume what is most popular in the genre is the right thing to do. Right. Like, 300 Blackout, maybe cool for me, maybe not work for you. I don't know. I don't know what your situation is.
I still always prefer the keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. And more and more.
Bare
And I mean,
essentials.
that's a lot of with my gun stuff. I mean, that's a lot of what I've been doing lately is trying to clear out the odd, I don't want to say oddball calendars, but just stuff that I'm just like, I never shoot this. I don't need it. Or I only bought this because it is just a toy and I've never used it very much or whatever. And so I'm just kind of clearing house of most of that stuff. Or I at some point will be rid of all of it. I'm just timing it,
Right.
for maximum profit margin. It's not even profit margin. It's just so I can buy more toys. Let's all be honest here. But I think that in a nutshell, a lot of people get confused when we bring on people that don't say the exact same thing we say. And it would actually be kind of a boring show if we all said the exact same thing.
I mean, you argue back and forth on stuff like that.
We're sitting here arguing about it, and you're like, I don't have a bag. And I'm like, I'm still silly for not having some kind of bag. But even though I just said you shouldn't have the bag, but I didn't say you shouldn't have the bag. I was saying you should get the bag last.
Right.
Now, and even going back to the bug out bag, I mean, there's good reasons for it. And we'll wrap up with one other really good example here in a second because we are starting to run a little long today. But when it comes to that situation, if I did have to leave,
right,
that is a heavy duty situation. And yes, you probably will see it coming for weeks. I don't want to think about where is all my stuff. I don't want to have to think about where are my core items. I want to think about what are the other items that I just really feel like need to go also, not, the core 3 days worth of stuff.
Right.
That I'm going to need to be comfortable while I go somewhere else for a little while to get out of harm's way. And that's what it's all about. And I think this goes into what I was just about to say, the last example of, why, yes, there are situations where you could still take care of it. And we ran into an issue where Jennifer, my girlfriend, just had her wisdom teeth taken out. It was poorly planned, but I don't blame, I don't fault anyone for the way it was planned. She did it on a Friday afternoon after she finished class, and it was done through the university, and the whole thing turned into just a giant silly mess. The surgery itself had complications. There was, I still blame it on the oral surgeon involved. They wrote the script for her same thing,
right,
out incorrectly, and since that's been classified as class 3 narcotic now or something, so it's like extra freaky. Somebody may get stoned on this, whatever.
Yeah,
and so the number of pills was written out, but not the number of times a day those pills should be taken. So no pharmacy would fill it, and we couldn't get a hold of the oral surgeon, who the fool didn't give her an emergency contact number after the surgery. The school didn't have an emergency contact number for the surgeon, or it's a dental university and they didn't have numbers for anyone else that couldn't write script. So we're in a really stupid situation here. And now it's 5:00 on Friday. Good luck. Now, I do have several emergency contacts I could have called, and we could have gotten another doctor to write the script. But here's what happened. I may or may not have seen in a movie once where someone may or may not have saved their from something and had a 3-day supply on hand and just said, Jennifer, just come to the house, forget about it. We'll sort it out on Monday. Are you able to get the antibiotics? Because I got that covered too. just stop. You and your girlfriend stop fooling around with these pharmacies.
Right.
It's a dead topic. We don't need to fool with it. Just get here. And she did. And we were covered through the weekend. The character in the movie may have been irritated that all the been used up, but the situation was resolved.
Right.
And that is an example of, it was not this, I did not need for the zombie apocalypse. I needed it for a stupid ass doctor filled out a prescription incorrectly on a Friday afternoon, and we couldn't get anybody, or a Friday evening, we couldn't get anybody else. Yeah, we could have gone out and gone through great lengths, but hey, it was just get in the car, get over here, done. You rest and get through the weekend.
Sir, that right there is the beauty of being a prepper.
Exactly.
Being prepared for whatever the hell comes.
And with that, we wrap up episode 120. Thank you for joining us. Postscript. Warning, the aforementioned fictional movie was only to illustrate a point. 2 of the characters in the movie had full academic pharmacology backgrounds, emergency medical training, and dental emergency medical training. Medications should only be administered under the supervision of a medical professional, or a zombie apocalypse. The fictional scenario was presented only for educational purposes. This never happened, you didn't hear anything, and we were never here. From Houston, Texas. Till next time, stay safe and sound.